Morning, guys. I hope you're all well. I'm John Williamson, Media Solutions Consultant here at LinkedIn. I mainly focus on best practice content, employer branding tips and tricks, and overall good practice for the LinkedIn platform itself. So hopefully you'll take away some really good tips from today from this webinar. Just want to add on to that point, as Lisa mentioned, there is a delay in slides, so hopefully everything will be in sync when we're going through this whole webinar itself. So we are going to focus today, as mentioned, on the employer branding checklist for a hiring surge. And the main things we're going to focus on is three key things here. One is the spike in jobs and job seekers. Two is the employer branding checklist, and 6 tips we've got to prepare that. We'll also be going through some good practice content around those as well. And then finally, we're going to focus on attracting the Generation Z candidates, which are coming into the market at the moment, as I know this is quite on trend, what people are talking about right now. Okay, so more people are changing their roles or career at certain points throughout the year, and this is only increasing, as we can see here. So we need to get you guys up to speed and ready for these spikes in job seeker activity. So as you can see on the slide itself, as people change jobs in September 2018 when compared with September 2017. So as you can see from our data here, we are seeing that September and January are key months in the year where people are changing their roles. For example, around about now, people are coming back after school or summer holidays. They're feeling refreshed and they're ready for a change. This is something we see quite a lot. We also see a recent sort of influx of graduates around this time as they're just finishing university. I'm sure we've all seen the posts on our LinkedIn profiles or our LinkedIn feeds of guys and girls just in their mortarboards and hats with their scrolls saying that they're ready to get into the world of work. And also to focus as well on Jan, as we can see there's another spike on this slide, is that this is where people are coming back after Christmas and New Year with that new year, new me mindset, and they're ready for a change at the start of the year. They're ready for something different, and they're ready to go into a new job. So these are the key areas that I really want us to focus on in this next few minutes, where we're looking at September, which is very soon, which is now, and then also in January after Christmas, where the key spikes as we see in candidates on our platform. Okay, so we have 645 million members on the platform, and this is obviously one of the best places for you to get these candidates in the doors of your businesses. And we want to help you optimize your recruitment efforts and attract that best talent. So going through in these next few slides, we will run through a list of how to get you LinkedIn ready for these spikes in the coming year with some top tips. Okay, so here they go. The first one is reviewing your company page and live tabs. So here, what we've got here is all your content up to date and relevant. That's what you need to think about. How often are you posting on your LinkedIn company page? Is it relevant to the types of candidates you would like to attract? Are you posting frequently, for example? How often are you posting this content? Is it 3 to 4 times a week? Is it every day? Or is it once every 2 weeks? This is what you need to start thinking about, maybe having more frequent content posting. Are your live tabs role specific, or focusing on company benefits, for example? So, for example, we see some clients who have their live tabs which are focusing on different sections within the business that they need to hire for. It could be software engineering, it could be within accountancy, it could be within marketing, and these are great areas to really focus your content on these certain departments within a business that you're looking to hire roles for. Another one is the company benefits. We see some great clients who utilize these company tabs on their LinkedIn company page to focus on their sort of maybe their cycle to work scheme or their CSR initiatives, or they could even focus on their wonderful new office that they could have opened somewhere in Singapore or even in London or something like that. These are great areas where you can really sort of attract the candidate and a great starting point for you guys. Number 2, review your content calendar and content plan. Do you have the right content to attract new talent? You know, this is where we think about campaign or content calendars. You know, are they focused on job-specific content, for example, or new talent or company news and updates? This is where you can really sort of get a plan on paper and really work out what types of content you want to put out and when. And this really falls in line with say when we're focusing on September, this is a great example. So within your content or campaign calendar, you could focus September on a big hiring spike for candidates. And you know that you need to get content out there, which is focusing on attracting these people in order to come and work for your business. Number 3, make sure all your jobs are updated and listed on LinkedIn. So obviously this is where we need to make sure, just the housekeeping here, all your relevant and most recent jobs are updated and listed on there. Because if you're going to be putting out great content, you need the jobs to align with that content. So they can then go onto your company page, engage with your content, and then hopefully there is the jobs that they can see where they can apply to come and work for you guys. Number 4, identify your hard-to-fill roles that will need extra help or some extra content to support. So this is where we really need to think about speaking to your hiring managers. So if you're struggling to hire for a good role, or you're thinking of good content to hire for these roles, speak to your hiring managers and get some insight into the roles that they're hiring for. Why, what are the benefits they can get from working within this team, for example? What are the key projects they could be working on? What are the key sort of products that they could be working with? All this can help with content ideas to attract the right candidates. So I think this is a really key point for you guys to focus on. If you're really struggling for these hard-to-hire roles, now is the time for you to sort of speak to those hiring managers and ask them what they really love about their job and what this person that could come and join the business or join that team could also get from the role as well. Number 5, look into your audience personas for those hard-to-fill roles. Who is that perfect candidate? Now, I know when people talk about audience personas, or I've spoke about it before with clients, they seem to get very worried. Now, I really don't think you should try and focus on what is an audience persona. It's not as complicated as you think. Just try and put yourself in the shoes of the candidate. That's all it is. And again, as relating with number 4 and speaking to that hiring manager, what does the candidate want from your business when it comes to their perfect job? That's what you need to try and think about. This is something that you could do on a whiteboard session with your team, and you can create that sort of perfect role and think, okay, how would I get this now across to them? Who is this candidate and what do they want from our business, and how can we get that out there so they can get that message? There is no harm in reaching for the best. So when you're doing that, building out that candidate and just thinking they would like flexible working, or they may need some good benefits, like we mentioned, a cycle to work scheme, or they could be looking for other things within their roles, like they want to know what charities you guys work with. This is all areas that you can really build out on, and then hopefully build a content plan around about this area. And then number 6, the final one so far, don't forget your graduates. Around this time, as mentioned before, the Generation Z audience are entering the market now. So obviously you need to be ready for them. What content will they want to see? So don't worry, we are going to come to this in a couple of minutes as well. So hopefully we can give you some top tips on this area as well to get you ahead of the game when it comes to Generation Z. Okay. So from this, I want to go into the types of content. So off the back of those tips, I want to run through some good examples. Hopefully these will help you when thinking of ideas for content and getting your brand in front of the right candidates. So here, for example, the first one we're going to focus on is role-specific content. So, for example, we have 2 here, one from Formula One and one, as we just saw briefly before, from Monzo Bank. These are great roles, great sort of piece of content, which are focused around roles. So for the Formula One, for example, they're talking about a quick insight into a day in the life of that role. Our track systems team were very grateful for an air-conditioned car at the Hockenheimring this morning. The daily drive around test providing a short respite after all our hard-working setup teams has been sweltering in the heat for the past week, getting the circuit ready for the German GP this weekend. This is giving you a very quick insight into that role. Really, really tiny, but gets great engagement. And also an amazing call to action here saying, keep an eye on our open vacancies via this link if you're interested in joining morning testing labs. We've got a really great call to action and gives you a good insight there with an image and good engagement with hashtags as well. For the Monzo Bank piece, this is a great piece of content as well. What you've got here is a day in the life of an engineering manager at Monzo. Just what we mentioned before when we were going back to speaking to the hiring managers. This is the kind of ideas for content that you could get from this. As it says, Maria is an engineering manager at Monzo, and it talks about what she loves within her role. And this is a great piece of content that's going to give you then that insight into that role, so you know what you're going to be applying for, or the candidate knows what they're going to be applying for. And then if we go to grad talent, so graduate talent, so that this could be anything from people who've just graduated, or we can be talking about people who are coming up, just joining on board from after being in work, say, for a year after they graduated. And we've got two, and again, great piece of content from Eurostar and Citigroup. Here on the left, we've got a brilliant video that I think is worth watching here, which is about Cole and Amir. And it's basically their first cohort of engineering graduates. And this is a great piece of content that's giving you an example of to what it's like for these guys as grads working in Eurostar and the different things they can get up to within that business. Also, again, a great call to action. Applications to our 2020 programs will open in the coming months. Keep an eye out. So what they've done is teed up for another piece of content where they can then talk about, here's a link, as mentioned before, about our 2020 program. Also worth noticing, again, hashtag life at Eurostar and hashtag future talent. You see here that hashtags is becoming more prominent on the platform, and we'll come to a slide about that in a few moments. With the Citigroup one, our Citi graduate recruitment team is coming to a university near you. Did you know that we have 150 plus graduate programs and internships globally, from corporate banking to technology? Register for our upcoming career fairs to learn more with a link. So here, again, a great sort of summary of what they're talking about within their grad recruitment team, and also a great image of recent grads. So I think this is really engaging. Again, it's not too set up. It's very organic. It looks like it's been a photo just done on an iPhone, but it's a really great engaging photo. And you can see there with the reactions, over 1,000 reactions and 26 comments. This is really valuable and easily shareable content as well. Okay, so attracting new talent. So this is where we look at if you're bringing in new talent from the start. So Netflix, I always use Netflix. I think they're really worth having a look at, guys. I mention them a lot to my clients. Their employer branding content is very good. And here we have one. This is a great piece of content. Just wanted to highlight that Wendy Zenon is a badass. Not only did she quit her job as an esthetician at 38 to learn how to code, but now she's a senior security engineer at Netflix. And in brackets, and she's hiring, which is really brilliant, with the link to that. And then what we've got from this is a really cool sort of chilled out way of sort of looking into this role. And they've even tagged in Wendy, so you can maybe reach out to her, or you can look at her profile to see what she's done before to get into this position. So you can learn about that role and learn about the hiring manager up front. And then again, as mentioned, a great link to that job as well. And look at the engagement on that. Okay, they have over 2.8 million followers, but it's got great engagement and it's not too professional. And I think it's a really good piece of content for looking into attracting new talent. It also shows that if you've been in a role before, which is completely different, it shows that career change is great sometimes. And I think that's really valuable in this piece of content. If we then go on to Skyscanner, here what we've got is Work Life Skyscanner, and then this is a piece of content written by Vicky Fraser, Principal Product Manager, and it's explaining everything about that role that they're in. And what I love about here, it says Vicky Fraser has a go at describing not just what a Skyscanner product manager does, but how it feels to be a PM at a company building the world's travel-led search engine. Again, notice those hashtags and a great image of these guys on a beach. It's not her sat at her desk, for example. This is great engaging imagery, which we find works very, very well with this type of content. Also, as well as above, CEO content is really valuable as well. I talk a lot about socially engaged leaders and social CEOs. This also brings the aspirational piece into the mix. So when it comes to good content, people want to see there's nothing wrong with dreaming big and looking that they can maybe be a CEO one day. So I think when you're attracting new talent, and even for the graduate market and the Gen Z, when you're putting out content about that, focusing on the CEO is really valuable. People like to hear about these guys. We look at Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, so many people out there that people really want to aspire to be. And then on the Gen content, we've got two great pieces here. one from Tesco and one from JCB, okay? So if we look at the Tesco here, this is a great example where they're focusing on people who are just literally coming into the market. And what they're focusing on here is apprenticeship scheme. It's good luck to everyone receiving their A-level results today. And there's a great video about Hannah, who was a food apprentice, who's then gone all the way up to being an assistant buyer within Tesco. This is a brilliant video which focuses on her journey within Tesco. And also, it's worth noticing that they're being relevant in their content. So they put this content out this year when people were receiving their A-level results. So that's going to get great engagement because that's relevant content, and relevant marketing is really valuable around these times. And if we look at JCB, here we've got a donation from JCB has helped the Staffordshire Moorlands Church to build firm foundations for the future. Read the story. Now, you may think, why is this Gen Z content? But what this is that we're seeing as we will come to, more people of these guys that come into the job market are really interested in knowing what businesses are giving back to the community or businesses are doing for charity. It's not just Generation Z, we're seeing it further up as well. A lot of people want to know what their company is doing for charities and CSR initiatives. So I think that's a really good example of some good content to look at. So I hope those were useful for you guys. And what we've got now is looking at the millennials and the Generation Z, and I want to sort of cover this quite quickly and explain sort of a brief overview of these guys and what they are and who they are, because I know a lot of people are talking about them right now. So the millennial versus the Gen Z, or maybe we don't use versus, maybe we just say who are millennials and who are Generation Zers. Okay, so some of these dates we see some difference in the dates, but these are around about right, I'd say. But millennials are born between about 1980 and 1996. And then Gen Z were born between about 97 and 2010. So if we go back to millennials, what they're looking for is they were raised by baby boomers. They grew up during an economic boom. They tend to be idealistic. They're focused on having experiences. They're mobile pioneers, so they grew up with mobile. They had a life without mobile, and then mobiles come into their life. They prefer brands that share their values. So here's a key example about content for you guys. So sharing that content about your values. Do you talk about your mission and your vision? And they also prefer likes of Facebook and Instagram. And we must also mention LinkedIn is obvious throughout both of these, of course. And then for Gen Z, these guys here, they were mostly raised by Generation Xers who were just before millennials. They grew up during a recession. They tend to be pragmatic. They focus on saving money. They're mobile natives, so these guys have been using mobiles at a very young age. And they prefer brands that feel authentic. And then when it comes to social, as well as LinkedIn, of course, they prefer Snapchat and Instagram. So these are key areas to sort of think about when you're thinking about maybe building that persona, building the content for that right candidate, if you're focusing on a graduate scheme or early career roles within your business. Okay, so what we're seeing here is some key stats here about Generation Z in the workplace. So we've been focused on number one here. 72% of Generation Z prefers face-to-face communication. So in that, for example, when it comes to content, try utilizing video maybe rather than imagery, as this communicates a point or a role a lot clearer to the person. Therefore, you're being probably more engaging and a lot more authentic when doing a video. When it comes to video, this can just be done on an iPhone, and this is the kind of stuff that really will grab these guys and hopefully make them want to come and work for you guys. Number two, 69% prefer their own workspace. So for this example, do you offer flexible working? Do you offer flexi-desk? Are there rooms where they can just take a laptop and go and sit down and crack on with their work? These are key areas, again, for maybe content that you could focus on or something you could speak to the hiring manager about to learn more detail into those roles so you can get the content out at that right time. Sure that it's going out at the spike, because people right now are out there looking for new roles. And then I then want to quickly focus on points 5 and 6 here. So 36% say equality is the most important cause they want their employer to support. And then number 6, 72% say racial equality is the most important cause today within the Generation Z workforce. So here, this is where, your diversity inclusion strategy lies. Do you have one? This is where you really need to try and think about that. And again, push that type of content out there to your potential candidates via the LinkedIn platform and your LinkedIn company page, because this is what these guys are looking for. This is where you can hopefully get the best graduates who are just coming into the work market right now. You can really grab them now. Okay. And then onto this slide here. So looking at them in the workplace, again, what does the new audience care about? So, can you show or offer all of these points in your LinkedIn content or on your career site, for example? So 2 greatest aspirations after university or college are to be financially stable and to find a dream job, for example. That's where we then look about the authenticity of that content and getting that out around about this time. Also, 2 most important factors for them in a role is empowering work, culture, and potential for career growth. This is where it's really valuable, where we then look at hashtags, for example. Do you have a hashtag that relates to working within your business that these guys can share? And when they're sharing that content, then when your candidates are reaching out to, your recruits are reaching out to candidates around now, the candidates can then see hashtags that connect to this type of content that relates to your business. As we saw before, Eurostar had a great one as well. And then another one here, the 2 most important skills to succeeding in the workplace according to Generation Zers are communication and problem solving. So how do you get this across in your content? This is another area to focus on as well. Okay, so as we mentioned, they're coming into the talent market now, and what we've got here is we want to sort of look at sort of Generation Z members are on LinkedIn right now. They're here, and what we've got is we've got over 60 million Generation Z are on LinkedIn with over 25 months of professional experience, and there are between 2 to 8 million who are between 18 to 20 on the platform. So this is the age range, as you can see here on this graph. We've got like 2 to 8 million who are aged between 18 and 20 who are on there now. So these are the areas that you can be targeting and thinking about within this spike within September at the moment. Okay, so as we mentioned before, when we're talking about hashtags, and hashtags in posts are becoming more prominent, this is a key area to focus on around now as well. And what we can see are top 20 hashtags followed by these members. So we've got India is followed by 7.8 million Generation Zers. So if you're a global business, this is something to think about when creating that content and getting that out around this time. Innovation, 5.7 million Generation Zers are following this hashtag as well. So this is another area. So if you're focusing on a role that's going out, that's ready to go now in September, if it's relating to innovative work or anything that they're working on within a certain department, this is a great hashtag, to add to your content. Also, hashtag management is followed by 5.2 million Generation Zers. And then here we've got top 20 topics, and then here we've got technology, business and management, science and environment. So these are educated topics that you can maybe focus on. I work with clients, for example, who are really focusing on science and environment right now. So they're building content out around that to really get the best candidates and attract these in. Not just Generation Z. I mean, we mustn't forget about millennials and Generation X and everyone else. I think in that respect, keep on doing what you're doing, but I think it's worth focusing on these guys that are coming into the market right now and seeing what they're really interested in across our platform. And then obviously we look at top 20 topics. So this is graduate schools and students, salary, computer science, universities. I mean, if you look at universities, do you have content mentioning that you're going to be going to graduate fairs, for example? So these are key areas that you can really sort of focus on going forwards within the Generation Z market. And I just really wanted to focus on that right now, as it's quite a key topic that people are talking about. Okay, so I hope that was useful for you guys. And just to sort of go through what we mentioned in the employer branding checklist before, these are the key 6 tips that I'd like you to take away and maybe work on. Obviously, number 1, review your company page and live tabs, as we mentioned. Number 2, review your content calendar. Do you have the right content to attract new talent? Number 3, make sure all your jobs are updated and listed and relevant on LinkedIn right now, because this is a key time people are looking for roles. Number 4, identify your hard-to-fill roles that will need extra help or some extra content to support. Again, as mentioned, speak to your hiring managers if you need to get some more intel into that role that will really sell it to the potential or the perfect candidate. Number 5, look into your audience personas for those hard to fill roles. Who is the perfect candidate? Again, don't focus too much on the audience personas. It's not as complicated as you think. Again, if you were that candidate and you were looking to work in the job or in the business that you're working for now, what would they want to see? And then number 6, don't forget your graduates. As we just mentioned at the end there, Generation Z audience are entering the market now. They have graduated. So these are the guys that you want to be thinking about within this September spike, as well as all these other guys that are looking for a fresh new start or a fresh new role. I really hope that was useful, guys. And if you have any questions, just please fire away.